everybody, and welcome back to The Cup Screenplays, brought to you by Cup of Hemlock Theatre. I am your ginger co-artistic producer, Mackenzie, and I am joined once again by a terrific panel here who you most recently saw touring, Scotland of the 1930s with Maggie Smith and the Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. And as promised, we are back once again to talk another fun adaptation, something that is, we keep trying to get Sarah to different things that are not high school teenage girl related, and we somehow still end up in that realm somehow. So we are doing She's the Man, the 2006 film, loosely adapted from Twelfth Night, the Shakespeare play, directed by Andy Fickman, who is known for directing the Los Angeles off-Broadway and London productions of Heathers the Musical and the Los Angeles play of Jewtopia. So there you go. He seems like a fun guy. But I'm joined, as I said, by a terrific panel. So, of course, we have Hillary. Welcome back, Hillary.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. What have you been up to? I see you're rocking the 2000s, mid-2000s t-shirt vibe.
It's a Barbie shirt. I mean, it's not TM, but
it's not Quicksilver.
Barbie. Oh no, I wish. Oh, I wish I had one. Yeah, no, I haven't been up to too much. I took a little trip to California to visit some friends and escape the Toronto winter. But other than that, just auditioning and doing all the regular things. Thanks for having me.
Love that. And I saw Desperate Measures got nominated for something again.
We were nominated for Best New Work by the Mind Entertainment World Awards, which were so nice because it was cliche, but an honor just to be nominated because honestly, we were up against Mad Match and a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of other amazing productions. We didn't win, but we did win as a surprise fan favorite. And honestly, that's all that matters.
You were the fan favorite. That's what counts.
Yeah, little indie darlings.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I love it. And of course, we have Alicia, who just recently appeared not only on Prime Ministry Boy, but she was also with Ryan as well on Reborn Crow, Reborn Crow. I think it's a longer title, but it's Reborn Crow over at Buddies in Bad Times. And she also just fought a wasp as well, very valiantly.
That did happen. All of those things did happen. Yes. Nice to be back.
Yes. Wasp free, I hope.
Wasp free. Correct.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood. And what's in your cup?
What's in my cup? I just have a good old glass of water in a mason jar.
Love that.
And with my fun little purple swirl straw. Gotta stay hydrated. So that's me. Just, drinking my water.
Love
free.
Love that. Hillary?
Oh, blurred background. A cup of soda water in kind of a fancy cup.
It's like an Art Deco-y cup. I like it.
Yeah. It would have been great if I had found a mini trophy, a soccer playoff cup or something like that. But yes, just a plain little soda water, staying hydrated, just like Alicia.
Yes. Wonderful. And we have the LHH producer, the wonderful Sarah Heim. Hello, Sarah.
As you can see, you're finding out about my day job by mistake because I forgot to rename myself. It's great to be back.
Woohoo! Woohoo! I already know what it is, so I'm just great, you're a producer of something now. I'm such a great short film that I can't wait to see.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that too. Yeah.
Yes, but you're back in the world of high school and teenage girls again. We still have not gotten you out of this mold yet.
We have not, although I will say I laughed a lot more watching this one than I did any version of The Crucible or The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. So I will take it.
Okay. Perfect. And what is in your cup today?
Oh, yes. I'm kind of doing a double thing. I too have my water for hydration, but I do also have some herbal tea. Yeah, I thought kind of fitting for maybe a debutante event.
Yes.
In my little teacup. So
I love that. Yep. Perfect. And I will say I am just drinking some sugar-free Gatorade fruit punch tonight. So, this felt like something a little bit different than the regular Crystal Light. So we're shaking it up just a smidgen. But there we go. So we are talking about She's the Man, something we alluded to in our Miss Brodie episode. And so let's kind of get all our general thoughts and impressions out, because this is a film of 2006. There are obviously some things that aged well, some things that definitely haven't, some things I don't even know why they were in popular to begin with, like a kissing booth, why that was ever a thing we did at carnivals and subjected women to. Like, watching that, I was just like, why? Why is this a thing? But yeah, let's kind of give our general thoughts and, what do we think about its connections to Twelfth Night? Is it your favorite Shakespeare play? Were you excited to see, an adaptation of Twelfth Night? So, Hillary, as our newest member of the Cup family, you get to kick us off.
Okay, for sure. So I really enjoyed it. I hadn't watched the film in years. It had been a very long time, but I had seen it a couple times before, but a long time ago. Twelfth Night, I haven't read in a very long time. And I admittedly had to check some plot points where I was like, is this a direct correlation? Is it not? I think I saw it at Stratford a few years ago. Would have been
there
the
was
last
the Brett
time
Carver one that was done, directed by Marty Meriden, and then there was the Des McAnuff one done in like the mid 2000s with Brian Dennehy, and it was like a Beatles music themed one.
Not that one.
Okay, so probably was the Brett Carver one that was done.
Probably Brett Carver. Yeah. I love a Shakespeare comedy. I think it's all very interesting. When I was in theater school, we did original Shakespeare, if you know what that is. But basically, you find out, you get your scroll. It's how they would have done it originally. And you get your scroll with your lines and your 3-word cue. And that's all you know. And you have a scene breakdown, and that's all you know. And so we did Two Gentlemen of Verona.
Underrated.
The first comedy written. And I had never read it before, and I was cast as Julia. So I really went in there knowing absolutely nothing, which was super fun. Yeah. All that to say is I feel like from that experience, I always look at the comedies from Shakespeare. Like, it's interesting to see the build off of it and what's similar and what isn't and everything like that. So it's always interesting, though I'm not like a 12th Night professional. It's interesting to watch it and look at all the similarities between all of it. But I really liked it. I thought it was super fun. It's a little campy. It's very like of its time. You know what I mean? But I loved the Amanda show when I was a kid. And so seeing you getting the opportunity to kind of like do her silly faces and all the pulls she does and everything. It was really, really fun.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah. Love that. Alicia?
She's the Man. I, again, like similar to Hillary, I haven't seen this movie in such a long time. Fun fact, my roommate has a little sandwich board by the entrance of our apartment, and it has a phrase on it, and I never understood where it was from, and I could have asked her, but I just thought, oh, it's just a fun, quirky thing my roommate has. And then as I was watching She's the Man, Amanda Bynes, her character, or Sebastian, says the quote that's written on the sandwich board, which is, I am a dude, I am a hunky dude, I'm a hunky badass dude. And I just was so like, I don't get where this is from. I could have done research, I never did. And then I heard that quote and I just burst out laughing, and I messaged my roommate and I said, oh my gosh, I get the quote now. So it was nice to have that moment with my roommate. Anyway, sidetracking, back to my general thoughts. I just had to share that because I don't know if there was going to be
an actual share.
Thank you. Overall, I feel like this is such a comfort film for me. It's just so funny and silly and like kind of dumb, which is great. Sometimes that's all I want to watch, just something silly that doesn't take too much brain power. It's so interesting to see how much Shakespeare inspired the films in the early 2000s and the 90s. So I think that's really interesting as well. Overall thoughts, I had a great time rewatching this film. It's been so long, so I forgot all the jokes, and I posted it on my Instagram story. Mac, you saw it.
I did. I didn't comment my guess though.
Yes, because I posted, does anyone know what movie I'm watching? It's a rom-com, Shakespeare modern. Anyway, I knew you'd know what I was talking about. But a bunch of people replied and said, oh my God, I love this movie. Or this movie is so funny. And they would reply with their specific quotes from the movie. So it's nice to know that a bunch of other people just resonate really well with this. So those are my overall general thoughts.
Love that. Love that. And Twelfth Night itself, like, what's your opinion of the play Twelfth Night?
So 12th Night, I relate to university because I definitely had to read it. And then I saw the higher years do it as well when I was probably in second or third year. So with 12th Night, truthfully, I should have done a bit more research prior to starting this podcast today. But I remember also enjoying 12th Night as well. It's Shakespeare's comedy. I like when I get to see characters in Shakespeare, what's the word? Gender bend or
Mhm.
yes, I like to see the gender bend type of characters. I think they're really fun. So I'm also thinking of the Two Gentlemen of Verona for some reason because I did a monologue from that. And there's also gender bending in that play as well.
Mhm.
So that just kind of crossed my mind. But overall, Twelfth Night is also a fun, just a fun Shakespeare. So I think if someone were to see She's the Man and resonate with it or enjoy it really well, I think said person would also enjoy reading or watching Twelfth Night.
Mm. Fair. Love that. Sarah, what about you?
Echo everything that you both said. I actually have seen this movie a lot, and not actually, it hasn't been that long. I think I maybe watched it a year ago because I found out that my husband had never seen it. And I was like, okay, well, this is mandatory viewing. So I watched it with him. And I feel like something that's quite telling about it is that, well, first of all, I've seen it so many times and still enjoyed it just as much this watch. My husband also really liked it. He wanted to watch it again with me when I was watching it this time, and he like cackles through the whole thing. And actually, I had even mentioned to my parents that I was going to be on the Cup today, and they were like, "Oh, what are you watching this time?" And I said, "Oh, She's the Man." And my parents independently went, "Oh, that's a good one." Both of them.
Oh.
So I thought that's so interesting because that also means and they were obviously watching it when I was quite young, and so they were obviously adults. I'm watching it as a young person, but they still found it super funny. My dad, we used to watch the Amanda Show together. He loved it. He thought it was so funny, and so actually he said when he was like, "Oh, that's a good one," he was like, "What was the name of that show that we used to watch?" I was like, "It's the Amanda Show," and he was like, "Yeah." That was good. So we have a lot of good memories, I think, around Amanda Bynes and her performances. So honestly, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much. I laughed so much. I think she is so talented. And I know we're going to talk more about the performances and whatnot, but I feel like it's funny. It's campy, as you said. It's like silly. There's like a nice girl power message, which I know I really resonated with as a young person. And so that is lovely. Apparently it's an intergenerational favorite. So I am like, yeah, I am all for this movie.
Love that. Love that. I mean, I grew up watching it because, I mean, once again, Amanda Bynes, big fan of hers growing up. I remember watching the Amanda Show, also, young preteen Mac, obvious crush on Amanda Bynes. She's stunningly gorgeous. So, absolutely amazing there. And I mean, the comedy's great. I mean, it's a body funny film that definitely is harmless. It's anything that I don't think that has not aged particularly well is not to the cringe point where it's like, oh, I can't watch this anymore. Like, there are certain moments like the kissing booth scene where you see Olivia being forced to kiss this one guy for way too long. And it's like, ugh, but you're supposed to feel, ugh. You're watching it originally. You're not supposed to be cheering on the guy who's not letting the kiss go. I mean, obviously there's the nudity in the soccer game at the end with Sebastian and Viola. And, looking back at it now, it's like the same thing people say about, Euphoria, where it's like these people are supposed to be like high schoolers and we're watching them, like be very sexualized ways that obviously the actors are old enough to do be fine with the nudity, but their characters themselves are much younger than they are, and that we'll get more into that age question when we get into the Channing Tatum question and how that kind of affects sometimes how we portray high schoolers. But yeah, like even then, like it's played off as a joke. Like it's not played off to be sexualized. I think Amanda Bynes' moment of flashing is a bit more sexualized by the guy's reactions compared to her brother when it gets a weird comment from the dad of all characters of that's my boy. It's like, okay, Dad, I think considering this is like your first scene of the movie, like you've been alluded to, but we haven't seen you at all in the movie. And your first like big line, or your two big lines of the movie are either "That's my boy" or "There's a lot of nudity in this soccer game." Like those are your two big lines in the movie, and he delivers them great. I will give that actor credit for being funny. But yeah, I mean, like there's elements that don't quite age well, but at the same time, it's fun. It's lighthearted fun. It's not meant to be taken too seriously. Like there's a lot of body comedy, like the soccer ball getting kicked into the crotch, and Amanda Bynes having to do the overreaction because now she's playing a dude. Very funny. Almost kiss not kiss moment with the tarantula between Duke and Sebastian, who's Viola. There's that type of comedy there. Like they did a good job with this. Like they knew what it was. This was a comedy meant for teenagers and early 20s people who are just out to have a fun time. It wasn't meant to be an Oscar-winning kind of Miss Jean Brody, all a great Shakespeare adaptation. It wasn't that. It was meant to be a body light, fun piece. So I think it did its job. I mean, Twelfth Night itself, I knew because I did scenes of it in Stratford Shakespeare School. Then I read it in grade 10. And then I also did scenes from it as well later on at York, doing York scenes as well. So 12 Nights be one of those weird Shakespeare's that just keeps coming back throughout. Like it's one of those ones where it's like, and I'm always Sir Toby or Sir Andrew. It's always those two characters I end up playing. Or, actually, there was the one time I did get to be Malvolio, and that was fun because I got to do the stocking scene where he shows up in his yellow stockings and accosts Olivia, which was great. That was a fun scene to block out. That was fun. But yeah, that's a play that keeps coming back. And so I do like it as one of the better Shakespeare comedies that I think this adaptation could have gone further with the connections to the play, because I think the plot itself is great and lends us, I think there's more that could have been done here, but we'll get into that in another question as well. We will save that. But speaking of Amanda Bynes and her dual performances as Viola and Sebastian, do you think she was able to strike the right balance and bring the nuance to both identities? Sarah, what do you think?
I really think so. Actually, the more I think about it, the more I think about how challenging a role this really was. She makes it look so effortless because her comedic timing and her facial expressions are so fantastic, and they always are. But actually playing two different characters like that and having to embody both of them, but also making both of them funny and then finding layers in both, that's really a challenging role, especially considering she was, I think she was 19 when she filmed the movie. Like she's young, she's carrying this whole film. And I really do feel like both of her characters had some great layers to them. Like I think when she's playing Sebastian, I love the vocal and like character work she does with her voice, where she has that ridiculous put on like boy voice that she does that is so funny with this like weird kind of accent thing that happens, and it's so funny. But then also she doesn't do it all the time. There's also when things between Sebastian and a friend or whatnot get a little bit more serious, she settles into like a little bit more of a authentic but lower register, and then sometimes it creeps into her actual voice and then she reels it back in. And so I think there's a lot of details there that really work to convey the comedy when it needs to, but also bring it down to a little bit more of an authentic place when needed. And then I also think the same when she's just herself as Viola. She's got her like tomboy, edgy, sarcastic, very funny energy that we see a lot. But then we also at certain times get again a more kind of an honest, a sweeter, more genuine side to her. And she brings both of those out equally strongly. So I actually think both versions of the character hit the layers that we need, both for the humor and to also like her and care about the outcome of what's going to happen. I also just have to give out a shout out to the scene where she's eating the chicken wings at the and she's like chewing with her mouth open and she's like mocking the girl, and she's making the face, which I honestly thought was just some of the best food acting that I've ever
She really
seen.
went for it, which is very hard. Like a lot of actors won't go for it because of the amount of eating she probably would have to do that day on set.
Yes,
eat that much chicken.
Exactly. It's so true. And I think that's kind of one of my compliments to her for the whole performance is like, she does not hold back. she goes for the bit every time, no matter whether she's going to look dumb or silly or whatever. Like, she's not trying to look pretty. She goes for the bit every time. And I think that's pretty amazing, especially again for a young performer. And I think also why the movie carries the test of time, that we're all still so enjoying it so much, is how committed she is. And it just makes it so funny. And it also made me think, as an actor, as someone who transitioned from theater to film, something that I was told a lot was like, oh, you're being too much, or you need to like tone it down for the camera. And then I was watching this and I was thinking, well, I was raised on Amanda Bynes. What did you think that I was going to do with my face? So I felt a little bit vindicated, because I thought, obviously, you know, that's sometimes it's a different medium. It's not that those comments cannot be true or not good direction, but it did make me think this is a great example of how sometimes when people just bring their authentic selves, even when it is big and campy and funny, when it's grounded in like a true need and want from the character, and then they just go for what they want, and they're authentic in themselves and the way they perform, it's so much more interesting than when people try to fit into like a little filmic box. So that was another little thing for me. Yeah.
Love that. Hillary, what do you think?
I mean, Sarah took many of the words straight out of my mouth. Like, I was going to say I just stopped myself from jumping in to be like, no, it's okay to be big on camera as long as it's grounded in reality. And I think that's what's so special about Amanda Bynes, you know, throughout any of the things that I've seen her do, but specifically with this and with the caricatureness of gender and how that plays between here. I think because she's so honest, because she just like fully commits to it, it's not seen as like quote unquote cringy or anything like the camera takes it because it's real, because it's genuine while being hilarious. I'd be so basically everything that Sarah said makes sense to me, but I would be curious. I'd love to see some like outtakes, because some of these things I'm like, is this improv? Is this, you know, like, and it is so crazy because at the time I didn't know when this movie came out that she was only 19. That's so young to be leading in a huge film like this that had like multinational release, and to see her making such big choices and carrying it so well and having that nuances. When is she Sebastian, like fighting with Viola, almost like wearing, if that's the right word, like wearing Sebastian, but like reacting as Viola, and then realizing, oh, I have to double back so I can, you know, stay safe and all that stuff and not be found out quite yet. What I thought was so interesting too, though, what you clocked, Mackenzie, about the nudity is I did clock with a tensor bandage around her chest. The camera never goes like below her hair. It's
not at all.
It feels very like respectful, and in a way that could have been, especially in the early 2000s, like kind of skeezy and gross.
Very skeezy.
And yeah, and they just kept it all about the story and the comedy and the fun. But I thought she did such a good job of raising the stakes in every scene and dealing with all that like push pull and the serious nuance, vulnerable bits, as well as the ridiculous humor. Like, I love the scene where she's fighting off all the girls in, oh my God, what, I wrote it down, the name of their like pizza place that they go to. Cesario.
Cesario.
Yeah.
Which is the name of her gender bent character in Twelfth Night.
Yeah. So I thought that was very, very smart. And that scene where she's like fighting off all the women and everything, and she's like grabbing her crotch at a certain point. It's like, you know, women, right? Like, it's very funny. I thought it was, she did such a good job.
Yeah. Alicia?
What can I add? Everything has been said, except, let's see, truly just really enjoyed the way Amanda Bynes did her facial expressions throughout the film. They were just so over the top and exaggerated. It's been so long since I've seen this movie. So I just was really into it and paying attention. And it also reminded me of theater. If I were to see Twelfth Night tomorrow, I feel like that's how Viola, aka Sebastian, would be playing Sebastian. I don't know. I just kind of saw theater with the way she was approaching the character. It just felt so out there. And it was so funny to me that no one could really see through that she was clearly a woman, which again reminded me of theater, of that like suspending your disbelief. It just made it so much so entertaining to watch. This was a very challenging role to play, to be able to play two characters. So that's just, as an actor, that's always tough. That's always a challenge, to be able to have two different objectives and all that. So I think she just did a really amazing job, and I laughed a lot. So that's always nice. Yeah. Everything else has been said in such a beautiful way. So just saying, I think she did a phenomenal job overall.
Love that. Love that. I mean, for me, watching Amanda Bynes in this, it actually brought me a bit of sadness because of the potential that's been. Once again, she's not dead. She's still very much alive, just not performing anymore. She's had some mental health challenges. And when you watch this film, you see the potential she had down there. Like, I could easily see her becoming almost like another Julia Louis-Dreyfus style actress, because Julia Louis-Dreyfus, when you watch her do comedy, particularly Seinfeld, like early Seinfeld, she went broad and big. She was not afraid to throw her body around or pull a face and have fun in the comedy. Like, even when Julia Louis-Dreyfus does Veep, some of the facial reactions she gives are a twinge bigger and more theatrical. But then she can also bring it down when she wants to in some of her more serious films that she's done too. So watching Amanda Bynes, I was like, oh, Amanda Bynes. Like, if anybody deserves a comeback, I mean, Lindsay Lohan's got the new Freaky Friday coming out. She seems to be on the right trajectory of life. Good for you, Lindsay Lohan. Amanda Bynes, it'd be great if maybe you could have a comeback to you if you're up for it, just because you deserve it. I mean, you did a lot of work throughout your teenage and young years too, like preteen. Like, she was preteen when she started the Amanda Show. And she went all the way through. I mean, she did Hairspray. She was an Easy A. Like, she worked a long time and put herself through a lot of stress there. And unfortunately, watching this, I'm like, you're so good in this that I would have loved to have seen where you would be now. Because she is, how old is Amanda Bynes now? Amanda Bynes she is 38. She's now 38.
Had a whole career, a whole life.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, the fact that she spoke later in later interviews about the challenge of playing these dual roles. She said in 2018 interview that she admitted like the role of eventually her doing the dual roles actually had a negative effect on her mental health when the film came out, because she didn't like how she looked when she was a boy. And, she put so much work into trying to be natural and really put her effort into it, and to watch her not like what she saw is like, oh, but we all liked what we saw. We really enjoyed your performance. Mind you, Dustin Hoffman had the same reaction when he took on the role of Tootsie and dressed up as Tootsie for the first time and walked out in public. And he saw men's reactions to him as her, and be looked down upon, or like not given the look of approval that men would give. And he goes, oh, I now know what it feels like to be receiving that type of look that I've given to people. So it's interesting when actors take on these roles that oftentimes put them in the other gender, what that opens up for them perspective wise. And I think, in fact, Amanda Bynes struggled with this. And she says, like, seeing yourself on screen with short hair, thick eyebrows, and sideburns was a strange and out of body experience. And she went through a deep depression for 4 to 6 months because she didn't like how she looked when she was a boy. So
he was also such a beautiful boy. Like,
right?
The times I watched, I was like, the skincare, Amanda.
Right?
Like,
right? And then, of course, there's the shaving scene where she's just the shaving. Like, once again, broad humor. Like, she got it. She understood what this role was and the type of comedy they were going for in this. And even then, like, there's still scenes where she is being very sincere. Like, there's the scene where they're talking about Duke trying to talk to Olivia, and it's all about, the Gouda cheese, do you like cheese, right? That could be a very funny moment, but she brings the sincerity of, no, it's not about the topic. It's about just talking, being open and vulnerable. And then when Channing Tatum has that other moment where he talks about, you don't have to be so objectifying of women to be a guy. And she goes, oh, you do have a heart. You are sincere. You're not the jock. And there's that connection between the two of them. Like, there are these moments where she really does drop in and show true acting. Not that she wasn't comedy acting, but it's like true dramatic acting. Like, she's getting the honesty of the moment and not being broad. So showing that range of being able to push and pull, I think once again shows why she was so capable of leading this film at 19 years old. Like, I think there's only a few handful of scenes where she is not on screen. So you can imagine what the shooting schedule was like for her to do. Is just a lot. So yeah, Amanda Bynes, shout out to you. And you deserve a comeback. If Lindsay Lohan gets one, you get one. We're all here ready for it, I will say. So, but speaking of Channing Tatum, it was Amanda Bynes. Once again, Amanda Bynes stepping in to save the day. She's the one that advocated for Channing Tatum to be cast as Duke Orsino, despite the producer's concern that he was too old, because I think he was one of the oldest cast members at like 26 when this film was shot. So do you think Channing Tatum was a good fit for the character? Let's go with Alicia to start this question.
He was 26.
He was like 26. He was like mid-20s.
Oh my goodness. He does look very young in this film. So I think that I would have preferred someone else. I'm kidding. I'm actually kidding.
I was like, hot take, Alicia.
I wrote down kidding in my notes. I love Channing Tatum in this role. I recently discovered that Amanda Bynes fought to have him in the, I want to say play every time I'm here because I'm usually reviewing a play, fought to have him in the film. And then I saw it as the discussion questions and I was like, okay, so this is common knowledge, I guess. I think that this was a great choice. He's just charming on film. He's really good in comedies. I've seen him in other things. He's Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
And he just has this natural charm, and he's also naturally good looking. So that's nice too. But I don't think he has this look to him where it looks like I don't know how to explain myself well, but it just his look doesn't come off as charming and goofy the way his character. Can someone remind me of the character name that he played?
Duke Orsino.
Duke Orsino, thank you. So I can see why maybe the directors or the casting were hesitant. Also, he's older. He's much older. But he played a young, goofy, charming boy quite well. So I'm really happy he was in this. And also it's nice to know that it sparked his acting career and things went places. He went places after this. So he
only had done a Mountain Dew commercial prior to this.
Wow.
That was it?
Wow.
Basically, that was it.
Oh, I saw that like she spotted him on a Mountain Dew commercial because like obviously
she spotted him.
Okay,
so here we go. So I totally fought for Channing Tatum to get cast in that movie because he wasn't famous yet. He had just done a Mountain Dew commercial. And I was like, this guy's a star. Every girl will love him. But the producers were like, he's much older than all of you. And I was like, it doesn't matter. Trust me. That's a quote from Amanda Bynes in 2018.
Wow, she crushed it.
Amazing. Okay, that's all I have to say. I thought it was perfect casting, and it's just so nice to know that he continued to act and build on his career after that.
Yeah. Hillary, what do you think?
Everything is shocking. Everything Alicia just said, I agree with. I feel like we're all like, I agree. Is that I guess what I would only say is from a producing standpoint is that's a bit of a risk if someone doesn't have that much on set experience and then he's going to be in a major supporting role and like major.
He's your male lead.
Yeah, like that's a risk, and he delivered. Thank goodness, and thank goodness for all of us that got to experience the rest of Channing Tatum's Babley career. And the more it continues, would Magic Mike exist? I've only seen the first one, but without Channing Tatum, like what would have happened? So
it's true.
I think, what we can say is Amanda Bynes, a pioneer, a step above the rest, very future forward thinking.
Yeah.
And
she make a great casting director.
Yeah, exactly. Like what can't the woman do?
True.
Yeah. And I did think he did such a good job of, physically he fits the mold and he's able to he's charismatic enough. He fits the mold in terms of physically and energetically. And then he also has those really nice moments where I believed him, where he was like, oh, I'm kind of scared. What a wonderful first major role to have this point where you get to like show off your athleticism, show off like his babeliness, and which is a term I'm coining right now, apparently.
Love that.
Thank you. Thanks for the support, friends. And then also to have his moments of, I'm not great at talking to girls and things like that, and showing more vulnerability. So, 10 points.
Love that. Sarah?
Yeah, I totally agree. I was gonna say, I know we were talking about the age, like how he's so much older, but I think because of the way they cast everyone else, he didn't seem older than anyone. Everyone seemed like they were in their mid-20s to me, other than maybe Amanda Bynes herself. So I felt like it was fine, like in terms of the world that they had created. Ridiculous that they're trying to pass these people off as high schoolers, but they all look the same, so therefore it's fine. And that's very common, especially in that era, but a lot of stuff nowadays too. So that was
this is what a 19-year-old looks like, or this is what a 16-year-old looks like.
Exactly.
That's the precedent.
Exactly. And I agree. I think he's really funny. Like, of course, he's known for being like so gorgeous and whatnot, but I've always thought he was really funny. Even, I don't know if you've seen the movie that he's in with Sandra Bullock, which the name of that movie I'm forgetting right now, but he's so funny in that too.
Hold on.
And I was kind of reminded of this movie. It's Island something, or
no, not The Lost. Oh yeah, he starred opposite Sandra Bullock in Paramount's romantic action adventure, The Lost City.
Lost City, yes. Yeah, really funny movie. I thought, if anyone hasn't seen that. But yeah, I think he's really, really funny. And as you said, Hillary still also gave some really lovely moments of vulnerability. And I think something about him that's kind of funny is because of his look, and something about like he does that thing of like, I'm a cool high school guy, like where they're just trying too hard to like be tough and cool. He does that really, really well, just like a high schooler would do. So I felt like that was he put that on very believably, given that, I guess he wasn't actually that young, but he's like got that great balance of, looking the way he looks, but then and kind of being able to play that sort of handsome, athletic jock character, but still being quite charming, being very funny, and kind of being a little dumb, like dumb enough that it's funny and it makes the humor work in this for the story, but still we still like him and are rooting for him. So I think he really, and again, not exactly an easy role to, it could have gone wrong in a lot of different directions there. And I feel like he's really well cast for that. And also his chemistry with Amanda Bynes is great. And with the rest of the cast too. I think like overall the ensemble is really, and I know we'll talk more about the larger cast, but they are all very well paired together, I think. So the chemistry between the two of them being good, both when they're like doing the buddy comedy thing and when they're romantic interests, both of those things have to work, and they did. So yeah, I thought he was the perfect choice.
Love that. I mean, I'll say for me, this man does not age. Like, he is ageless. And I will say he is the first person to actually make me like Duke Orsino as a character. Because even in the 12th Night Play, the Duke character is always the one where it's like, if music be the fruit of love, like, go blow hard somewhere else, dude. Like, nobody cares. Like, go away. Like, you're the one person where you're like, okay, all right, I guess you're there. But yeah, he's never the one people want to play. Like, you're always wanting to be like Viola, Olivia, Sebastian. Not even Sebastian. Sebastian's kind of an off character too. The female characters are much better in this play than the male characters, except for Sir Toby and Sir Andrew in Feste. Those are the three kind of better male leads of the piece in Malvolio. Yeah. But yeah, Duke Orsino always ranks down toward the bottom of character list for this piece. And so, Channing Tatum brought a lot of heart to this. I think he did a really good job of anchoring the piece, that when he's upset, you feel his pain and betrayal. Like when he thinks Sebastian has, been smooching with the girl he's been crushing on, the pain is real. Like, the pain is there. It is a moment of pathos. So I thought it was very well done. And then the fact that I loved that, unlike in the play 12th Night, where we wrap up the romances very quickly, and everybody gets married, happy doo-dah day, down, like into the bows, they took a moment to make Viola and Duke come together. And it wasn't a given like all the other couplings where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, Sebastian goes off with Olivia, woohoo, they're happy campers. The two douchebag characters end up together, but they made Olivia and Duke actually have a conversation before bringing them back together, where they actually had to have a heart to heart and an openness to each other. And I was like, that's a nice touch. That's a good addition to this piece that Shakespeare did not give us. So bravo to that. Yeah, I definitely say the chemistry between Amanda and Channing was top notch. Like, Amanda understood the dynamic that was needed, and she found it in Channing Tatum. And good thing she fought for him and got him into this, because she understood what was needed, and she saw that they had good chemistry together. So good on them for that. So I all support Channing Tatum in this role. And also, this film kind of did the Grease casting, where you got people who are clearly not high school students playing high school students. So it's like, if we're already going this route, just own it. Like, you don't have to be, trying to hide it and like some this, some that. It's like, if we're going to go the Degrassi route, go the Degrassi route and actually cast teenagers as teenagers. And if we're not going to do that, then own it and just go for it. Don't try and pretend and play dumb on me.
I wanted to add too, bouncing off that idea, Mackenzie, I think too, like, Amanda Bynes looks kind of old. Like, I wish I was that put together at 19, So she looks kind of older. Shout out hair and makeup and all of that. And like having lived a full adult life at the ripe old age of 19. And not that she looks old, like tired or anything, but just like put together. And Channing Tatum, I think they did something to his hair. That's what when I was watching and had that in mind, I was like, it's like the way they cut his hair, to me, makes him look younger.
Yes. Well, it was a classic kind of crew toppy, mid-2000s, like, what's his name? Freddie Prinze Jr. haircut.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, take this film back to like late 90s, early 2000s. Like, Freddie Prinze Jr. could have easily been a Duke Orsino type.
Yeah. And the movie might not have been as good. Who's to say?
I don't know. I mean,
love
just
Freddie.
like Sarah Michelle Gellar is doing this part. I think that would be an interesting coupling to put them back together. Anyway, so that's the point. Channing Tatum, love you dearly, and he's just a working actor. Like, I was looking at his filmography. Like, he's done anything and everything. Like, he's done the Jump Street franchise. He's done Magic Mike. He's done G.I. Joe. He's done, like, I forgot he was in Foxcatcher opposite Steve Carell, which is an Oscar-nominated film. Like, he has brought, actual heavy-hitting performances when he wants to, and then he also does these action things like White House Down and, the one with Sandra Bullock. Like, he has done it all. He even did the funny cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine as Gambit, full acknowledging that he never got to play Gambit. Like, and just doing a horrible Creole accent. Like, he goes for whatever he is. Like, he's like a leading man. I would consider him more of a character actor in a leading man body. He's one of those weird actors that does that weird combo where he looks like a leading man, but he is one of those work-a-day actors that just shows up and does a good job in whatever script you give him and brings heart. So, down the road, who knows? He could win an Oscar one day. I wouldn't put it past him. Give him the right material. He's got the heart. He could bring it. So you go, Channing Tatum. You go. But there are other people in the cast besides Amanda Bynes and Channing Tatum. So what are our thoughts on the rest of the cast? Let's go with Sarah for this. Sarah, who do you want to shout out for this? The tarantula?
No, I do not like spiders, and so I will not be shouting out that tarantula. But I will shout out David Cross, who plays Principal Gold. He's like my other favorite character. He's so funny in this role. It's just the way, it's the earnestness with which he says things and like just the timing. And so he makes this like great side character that I just, every time he was on screen, I laughed. I loved it when after Viola goes by with in her own voice is saying, "No, Mom, I'm not going to wear heels because they're invented by the patriarchy." And then he just turns to Malcolm and is like, "Have you ever tried to walk in heels? Not easy. Not easy." But it's just like the way he says everything, just so.
He's got a whole side character storyline that we never know anything about, but it's like, I want to know a spinoff of what this principal is like.
And his baldness and his
he owns the dome. He owns the dome.
What he's saying to her, like, I don't know if you've noticed that I am thinning a little bit myself. And he's like, completely bald. It's like, it's good stuff. So I think he's really, really funny. And actually, I really enjoyed like a couple other mini shout outs. The mom, Julie Haggerty, who plays Amanda Bynes' mom, I think is so funny. And I think what I liked about it was she was also so over the top and but just in, you know, a completely opposite character. And so again, I just think that as you kind of said, Mac, they knew what movie they were making here. Everyone was doing the same comedy. And that doesn't happen all the time. I've watched a lot of things where you go, well, it doesn't really feel like they were all in the same play or they were all in the same movie. And when you're doing comedy that's broad like this, and there's the slapstick and it's campy, like not everyone does that style and can make that work. So I felt like the mom was like a great balance to Amanda Bynes because she was also so ridiculous and so funny. And then I also did, in that same vein, put Robert Hoffman, who plays Justin, the ex-boyfriend.
Yes.
Because similarly, I just felt like he was the perfect dude, bro. Like he was just so awful. And so just made a great villain and was just also made some huge, ridiculous choices that completely played and worked and made him the icky villain that we loved to hate through the whole thing. So I feel like those were kind of my three standouts, but all kind of, I just loved all of them for their bold choices. And they're just like great characterization that really balanced out the cast.
Love that. Love that. Hillary?
Shout out our girl Olivia, Laura Ramsey. I believe is how you pronounce her last name. You know, I've done it myself before. It's hard to be the straight man, quote unquote, in a comedy. And I feel like she just, in the way that Sarah just described, you know, they all knew what movie they were in kind of thing. It would have been so easy. I thought she brought a lot of heart to Olivia. And when I love the scene when Amanda Bynes is like, they're all talking about, oh yeah, she was dating a college guy. And Amanda Bynes is like, oh, that's so sad. She must be heartbroken. Like, I really did feel that the character of Olivia could have just been like a little vapid. And I felt like she brought a lot of heart to it and was supported in the writing in that. But I think she was able to like take it up a notch of what the writing was giving her and really give it like a full character and a full journey and everything like that, when she could have just been as like the trophy or something like that. And then honorable mention, of course, to what was it, Malcolm, James Snyder.
Yeah.
Just meddling at all times. Yeah.
Horrible representation of what an RA is. They never get us right. As an RA, I always hate how they present us. They're either not active at all or completely like conniving characters.
Yes.
Like, we not just get an honest RA character.
Maybe you need to write it. Maybe you need to create it.
I think I may have to. I think
you should. Yeah. Yeah.
Alicia?
The character that stuck out to me, Emily Perkins played Eunice. I loved her. Such a hoot. She was she played her so quirky and funny. And as mentioned, everyone knew what play this was. I assume everyone must have read Twelfth Night. I feel like everyone like did a bunch of research before stepping into the role. Like I would have loved to see what the rehearsals look like for this movie, like the behind the scenes. But anyway, Emily Perkins was lovely to watch. I enjoyed every time she made an appearance. Just so funny.
I've never had a roommate before.
The headgear, the braces, the big smile.
The fact that they don't make fun of her for that. And at the end, Toby likes her for that.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, yeah.
It's just so sweet. Yes. I also put down the coach who is...
Oh, Vinnie Jones?
Yes, Vinnie Jones.
I'm the juggernaut, bitch! X-Men. I love that guy.
I just thought he was cool. I don't know. Completely opposite characters. We have the quirky, nerdy, outsider girl who's not afraid to be herself. And then the like hard, bitter, tough coach. I just really liked that line at the end when he said, "We're not going to discriminate against gender. We're going to play soccer." I just really, really liked that line.
He's like,
just the way it was delivered.
Yeah.
forgot to look up the actual writers of, like, we know this is based off of Twelfth Night, Shakespeare's Twelfth Night.
The screenwriters.
The screenwriters.
Screenwriters. So it's 3 credits: Ewan Leslie, Karen McCullen Lutz, and Kristen Smith, who also wrote, who's the American screenwriter and novelist with credits including Legally Blonde and Ella Enchanted.
I will get on so many soapboxes about how amazing of a film Legally Blonde is, and the title and the screenwriting. I made a friend watch it like last week for the first time ever, and was literally like interrupted an entire social gathering to make everyone watch Legally Blonde. Like,
and Karen McCullough, who also wrote this, also co-wrote comedies such as 10 Things I Hate About You, Legally Blonde, Ella Enchanted, The House Bunny, The Ugly Truth, and She's the Man. So there you go. Like, I don't know who this. Apparently, the screenplay and story are by Ewan Leslie. So it sounds like it started with Ewan Leslie, and then Karen and Kristen picked it up, and then probably are the ones that actually adapted or rewrote the screenplay. But they've gone on to do, you know, a ton of like great comedy classics.
Totally. Okay. I think that's all in terms of the characters that stuck out to me the most. And I think there's another question about production and stuff, so I might dive deeper into some of these topics later.
Love that. Love that. I will say for me, I'm going to give a shout out to the one and only Alexandria Brackenridge as Monique. Like, such a gleefully hateful character that is just the butt of everybody's joke. And I mean, we'll get more into her character because I think they could have gone further with that character with Malvolio's storyline from there. But anyway, we'll get more into that. I have ideas for that. But she was delightful. She was so delightfully bitchy in this that it's like you can understand why Amanda Bynes' Viola hates her, and the fact that, you know, everybody cheers the fact that she gets publicly dumped twice in this. It's perfect. Like, so fun, so over the top. It's great. Also, Vinnie Jones as the coach. I mean, so funny. Like, just, he's a character with heart. He has a lot of comedy, but there are moments of true heart that he brings. And I mean, hashtag 2025. We're not here to talk about gender. We're here to play soccer. It's like, you go, Vinny. You go. Like, you know, very progressive for the time. Probably nowadays that line would be taken out by some screenwriters. So, you know, Coach Dinklage, you rock. And then let's see, who played the dad? Because his 2 lines. Oh, here we go. John Potter Ferguson as Roger Hastings, the father of Viola and Sebastian. Canadian actor, actually. There you go. So shout out to her, as like his 2 great lines are both trailer lines. Both lines make it into the trailer. So, you know, he did a good job with his like very limited screen time. That he just shows up at the end of the 3rd act to give 2 great one-liners. So shout out to you, sir.
I want to see his audition tape because it probably was just that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just so funny. Like, as
that's
actors.
My boy. How many ways can he say that line?
Like, what made them choose him?
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, is like, as actors, if you're just auditioning for, you know, just an actor role or whatnot, to remember you might be the dad and she's the man. Like, we all know who he is. And yeah.
But there we go. Speaking of, so Alicia brought this up, which was favorite production or design element of the film. So Alicia, since you started that topic, we'll let you kind of pick back up where you left off there, because you seem to be like ready to dive in.
I'm ready to dive in. So my favorite production element / design element, I don't know how I can phrase this as a production element. I guess it would go towards directing and maybe writing, but the soccer montages, I really enjoyed. Mac is shaking his head. I really enjoyed the soccer. I'm not even a sports person, really. I am slowly starting to get into hockey, but yeah, love hockey all of a sudden. But there was just something so fun, and the music that was playing, All American Rejects was mostly playing in the background while
very 2000s.
It just very 2000s. It just took me back it just reminded me of my childhood, of how my brothers were all really into soccer and watching them play during the summertime. And there's just something very colorful about the way the montages were done, and seeing all the guys, including Viola, Sebastian, with their skills. And it also made me think of just the phrase like, well, girls can do anything a guy can do. So it was just nice to see those montages and everyone playing as a team. So I guess that production element would fall into direction, which was Andy Fickman, and then back to the writers. So Leslie, McCullough, and Smith. And can I also say, I want to say another thing. The writing, I don't know if we were talking about this on camera or off camera, but some jokes may have not landed in certain ways. A lot of the jokes, or there was a lot of comments of, oh, you play like a girl, this and that. Even the coach saying, come on, girls, get it together, when he was talking to the boys team. And at moments I was like, oh, that makes me cringe a little bit. But seeing that some of the writers were women, and also knowing that Viola was disguised as a man, the jokes that made me cringe still somehow worked. They were like a double entendre. So
it works because Viola wins the day and proves the opposite, that she can play just as good as the boys. And I think soccer is a great choice for a sport that can be shared by both genders. When, like, if it was football, I'd be like, great 300-pound guys tackling Amanda Bynes, not as believable. But kicking a soccer ball down the field, and it's an intense sport when people go for it.
They're shouldering each other and all that.
They're shouldering, like it gets intense, man, But I think it's the best sport that and baseball would be the two I could see as like ones you could share with both genders. So I think it was a smart soccer choice. But the jokes worked. You're right. The jokes worked because female writers knew how to spin it at the end of she still wins. If she loses, then it proves those jokes true in the sense that, it doesn't quite work. But you're right. It did work.
Yeah, I think so. So those are my thoughts. I'm excited to hear everyone else's.
I'll piggyback and say I did not like the amount of soccer montages. There were too many soccer montages.
Hot take, Matt.
Hot take. Yeah.
Hot take.
Well, I mean, my issue, and this stems from them adapting Shakespeare. I'm like, there was so much screen time dedicated to these damn soccer montages. I'm like, we could have used some of that time to build up the Malvolio subplot that got completely axed from this piece. That like there are ways you can do the soccer montage, but maybe cut at least one and a half out. Like, we don't need that many to prove the point that she's getting better at soccer, even though she's already good at soccer. Like it's one of those things where I just went one too many. Like screen time could be put to better use here. Like especially if we're adapting it from 12th Night. 12th Night was not about soccer. Soccer is just
was it?
What sport did they play back then? Actually, that would be like a team sport. I don't know.
Wars.
Boxing. Yeah.
Fighting.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But that's the thing there where I'm just like, like that's something where I'm just like, we will get into with like the Malvolio question plotline, but that's just one of them where I'm like, we could have used our screen time a bit better, which we'll dive into. But I will agree with you. Production element I loved was the screenwriting. I thought that Kristen and Karen did such a great job. Once again, it's loosely based on 12th Night. Very loose. So, it's one of those things where it's like, it's okay if it's not perfect. It's just comedy fun. Let's just have some fun with this and go for it. And I think, as you said, Alicia, the jokes worked. Like, every joke wasn't gratuitous. It wasn't sexualizing Amanda Bynes, doing these body changes. Like, everything was done so tastefully well that I was very impressed with how the script was done, even if I don't quite agree with how they delegated some of the adaptation screen time. But overall, I do agree with Alicia on that. Sarah, what do you think?
Well, first I need to weigh in on the soccer montages because I'm sorry, but I am with Alicia on this. I love them. And actually, what I'll say is when you said that we could probably use less of them because we already can tell she's getting better at soccer, even though she already was good. I think I disagree with that, because I think with the premise of the film being that she's as good as the guys, and with lots of people, probably lots of young men coming in to watch this and being like, and like, girls aren't as good as that. Yeah, I feel like actually her already being good, but then them really putting in the screen time for her to earn as well, catching up on the stuff that she didn't get to do on her team. And like, I think you really get to see her earn the success at the end. So it doesn't feel like, well, it's just like, it doesn't feel trite. Like, oh, well, of course they made her good. That isn't realistic. You feel like it kind of is because you watched her do the work. So I kind of think the excessive montages, I didn't think of this until you said that, but I think that the montages of her and all the work she was doing, I actually think served the plot really well to make the ending believable. But I also loved them because the production element that I wanted to shout out was actually the stunts. Because I had like a big nostalgia happen watching even just the opening sequence where they're playing the soccer on the beach. Because as a young kid, I thought that this was like badass. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like all the trick shots that Channing Tatum does, actually his stunt double does, like up in the air where he's like doing I don't know what you call it. I don't do sports, bicycle kick, or I don't know. All those things that he's doing are so sick. Like it's so great. So even if you're not like a huge soccer lover or anything, you can kind of get into they make soccer feel like dramatic. And so I really, really enjoyed the stunt work, not only of the soccer, but also some of the fight choreography. Like the scene with the 3 women in the bathroom at the debutante tea thing. The fight choreo is fantastic. It feels like really brutal, but at the same time, so funny. And so I just felt like they did an excellent job of using, because there's one there and there's also there's like a big brawl at the carnival, and then Amanda Bynes is like jumping on his back, and then she's got all the popcorn in her dress. Like they just used the stunt work both in the soccer, but then like in the fight choreography to bring a lot of like excitement and drama and humor, which I thought was really great. So that was sort of one production element that really stood out to me. And then I just want to give like a little side shout out to the hair and makeup costuming as well, because I feel like in addition, every time they went back to the real Sebastian, I kept thinking, wow, they really got Amanda Bynes' wig just dead on. Like the wig and the eyebrows, like they would go back to her and I'd be like, she really does look like him. And in her face, she doesn't really, but like the haircut, like it was perfect. So I do think that they did a really great job of the hair and makeup, but it was even just a couple of the costuming details that I felt like were really well done. Like all of the dresses that she had to wear when she was doing any of the like frilly debutante stuff, they managed to find a dress that was like, that she'd actually wear that. Like they found the Viola version of a dress. So it was also a sundress, but like the straps had the buckles, or like there was just like little details that really felt where I noticed it was again in the fight scene with the 3 of them in the bathroom. They were all wearing sort of a froofy debutante outfit, but each of their outfits perfectly suited their character and what thing their character would wear to that event. Like Monique is in like a pencil skirt blazer, pink suit with like little kitten slingbacks, which just feels very which is very different than Viola, who's wearing like a dress that's got like a little bit more of an edge to it and like some heels with a chunky block that just seem like much easier to walk in. And then Olivia's in something with a lot that's like more delicate and feminine and kind of demure. So I just felt like, given that it's like a high school rom-com, a lot of detail felt like it was actually put into the wardrobe choices, and I felt like that really added to it feeling like real people despite all the camp and big comedy. So those were my shout outs, the stunts and the wardrobe.
Love that. Hillary?
Mine was also wardrobe, which I realized I hadn't looked up the name, and Google tells me is Mary Lou Jarreau. I'm probably mispronouncing that last name, but I clocked it very early on, as Sarah was saying, like super detail oriented. I clocked very early on when Viola is walking into her house and she has a hat on, a blue cap, and it has like a Union Jack, like a British flag on it. And then she walks in and her brother's like, I'm going to London, kind of thing. Like there were so many little moments like that. And then when she looks at the picture, when she's deciding, oh, could I be Sebastian? She's wearing the same hat that he's wearing in the photo and all that stuff. And obviously it felt like very, very detail oriented. And then obviously like hair and makeup, I wrote very early on in my notes, Amanda Bynes wig and eyebrows - not bad.
Mhm.
It could have been like almost a joke in itself. And I think, yeah, I had the same thought. I'm like, the wig looks like it may be real hair, like the bangs and everything. It's very good. And I noticed like when Sebastian and Viola switch places at the end, when she's like hiding under the whatever it is she's hiding under, and he comes in, and then they change outfits, and then Amanda Bynes goes out. When she's talking to her brother, she has a clean face, but because he was
there's makeup.
playing, she had face paint on it, and I was like, man, I miss those early 2000s feature budgets, because that's something that could have so easily been missed. And I was like, we love to see the detail. So,
This is a small budget movie too. Like we're looking here, its budget was between 20 and 25 million, and it grossed over 57 million. So that's pretty good considering what they got for 20 to 25 million.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are
Love
my
that.
thoughts.
Love that. Well, Hillary, I'm going to let you kick off the next question, which is the juicy one, I would say, of the episode, which is, this film is loosely based on Shakespeare's comedy Twelfth Night, or What You Will. One notable change in the adaptation is the removal of the Malvolio, Sir Toby, and Maria plot or subplot. Do you think the absence of this B plot weakened the film? How might you have adapted or incorporated it into the story?
Okay, so as I described before, like I'm definitely not, I couldn't write a dissertation on Twelfth Night, but I do have a Shakespeare comedy, and I did have to refresh some parts of Twelfth Night for me in terms of, I was like, wait, what am I missing? Kind of thing, like what was forgotten. And I think they like Malvolio kind of merged into Malcolm.
There's elements of the Malcolm where Malvolio's whole thing is about him it's basically, it all stems from him scolding Sir Toby and Sir Andrew and Maria for making too much noise late at night, and he basically kind of basically upsteps his class. Basically, he kind of oversteps his class mark, and so Sir Toby and Sir Andrew and Maria take revenge on him by trying to bring him down a peg by faking him out, thinking that Olivia's in love with him, and they tell him to dress up in the stockings.
And then it's like, oh, she's going to be shy and pretend she doesn't like you, but that doesn't mean...
Exactly. And then ultimately it ends up with them taking it way too far and locking him in like a trunk, and, like, torturing him until when he comes out at the end, it's like, oh, you poor man, like you've been like totally like abused. Yeah.
So I could see perhaps in the adaptation, or when they were crossing things over and, what do we want to take and what do we want to leave? I wondered if maybe perhaps they're like, oh, we don't need to comment on class and things like that as much. But I do think they tried to incorporate part of that because he's like the nerd or the dweeb versus like the jock character of Duke Orsino, but also like Sebastian is also quote unquote punching above his weight if you're talking in terms of like social structure there. Like I would definitely describe it as a loose adaptation because it doesn't involve all that stuff, but I did forget until I watched it that the tarantula is called Malvolio. I liked the shout outs that they did have. I thought that there was some like potential name crossover.
There is
at points.
Duke's friends are named Andrew and Toby after Sir Andrew. Sorry, Sir, exactly. Sir Andrew Aguichi and Sir Toby Belch
and
the play.
Toby,
so they do take some of the names,
so it's kind of like they were like, we're gonna take our favorite bits and sprinkle in the rest lightly. So I don't know. Did I answer that? Do you think the absence? Do I think it weakened the film? don't know that it weakened the film, but it could have they could have punched it up a little bit more if they wanted it to make a more true adaptation or more direct adaptation, I should say.
Fair. Alicia?
So my thoughts are, when I was reading this question, I was like, wait, who? Because I truly...
Am I the only one that loves the Malvolio plot more than like the love plot of this play?
I think so. Maybe in this room, in this one room.
Potentially within this room, as Hillary said. Before you even got here, Mac, we were all briefly trying to discuss, okay, wait, who's Malvolio again? Let's quickly talk about it. How do we all feel?
Yeah.
And I just quickly did a Google search, and Google describes Malvolio as Olivia's steward, who is the target of some of the play's pranks. And seeing as in She's the Man, Malvolio being the tarantula sort of appears in a prank way when the tarantula appears in Sebastian and Duke's room and is crawling around and they're screaming and yelling. So there are hints of Malvolio in there. Of course, they did switch it up within the movie. I didn't miss it because, truthfully, She's the Man. When people think of She's the Man, they just think of Amanda Bynes being wonderful. So I think that's the main selling point. And it's a campy, funny comedy. As someone who enjoys Shakespeare, I can see why Malvolio is missed. And also, even the brief information that I'm getting from Google and hearing from you, Mac, I'm seeing, that would have been fun. It would have been a fun addition to have a bit more of that subplot in the movie. Did I miss it? Not really. However, if there was a part 2, I would have hoped that Malvolio's storyline would be adapted more so in the film.
Love that. Sarah?
Yeah, one of the other moments that strikes me as feeling kind of like they were trying to capture a little bit of that, but through Malcolm, was that I know with the subplot in 12th Night, there's they trick him into feeling like he's going insane, or they try to.
Yes, correct. They do trick, yes.
Which kind of happens in the
Sir
film
Topaz,
too.
The preacher. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so at the end, when Malcolm, at the end of She's the Man, when Malcolm tries to reveal them, but then mixes it up and gets caught out, and they all kind of make him look stupid, like he was losing it, and then it turned out he was right. So I feel like that's another little spot where I noticed that similarity.
Yeah.
I too, like both of you, had to kind of remind myself of what the subplot was, because I used to know 12th Night really well. I too did it. I played viola, and it's my first Shakespeare scene study in grade 10 drama. So I used to know it better. I do love it, but it just had been I realized it had been so long since I had read it and in that detail. But as I was kind of reminding myself of what that subplot is, I saw a couple of things online, and it kind of reminded me that there's also a little bit of a point where it feels like in the subplot it goes too far, and you actually start to feel a little bad for Malvolio.
Absolutely do. Yeah.
And I wondered if that was part of why they removed it, because in order, you have to go one of two ways. Mac, you had kind of alluded to it before about being it could be a great anti-bullying storyline. So you either have to go that way, or you have to make the character so awful that you're rooting for people to take him down, which would have, I think, taken a lot of screen time to develop him to be gross enough that we want bad things to happen to him, Otherwise, you end up kind of just feeling bad for him and feeling like the people who are picking on him are kind of mean. And I do feel like aside, in the cast, aside from the Monique and Justin, who are you are supposed to hate them, they're the villains. All the other they've made everyone quite likable. They're all kind of good people in different ways. You're kind of rooting for them. And I feel like they were maybe just I don't know how we make them treat any of these characters treat Malvolio that badly, and we're still rooting for them at the end. So I wondered if that was part of why it was just easier to remove it altogether. But that's not to say I don't think something interesting could have been done with it, because I feel like there's a lot of ways you could bring that into this modern telling. But I think maybe I just didn't miss it because they wove in enough other new subplots that the story still felt rich enough, you know, between the soccer and Eunice and their romance with Toby, and then the tarantula and the principal and the ball, like, and even the scene you mentioned about when they go to the restaurant and they're trying to show how he's like great with all these women. Like, there's lots of things that they folded in to really make the story feel very full. So it didn't feel like, oh, they're really missing some complexity here. So if you were just watching it, not knowing the Shakespeare, I think it feels like a very full story. And then, of course, knowing that there's this other plot, I think interesting things could have been done with that too. But yeah, I just wonder if it was too hard to keep everyone nice and likable, but also bullying.
Also super long. It's not a very long movie. It's like just over 90 minutes.
Yes.
And they do cram in a lot. So yeah.
So I have 3 characters that I think you could have gone this way with. And Sarah, you brought up 2 already. There's Monique. There's what's his name? The ex-boyfriend. Justin.
Justine in Viola's film.
That's right. Or then there is, what's the character's name? Is it this one? Yeah. So So it's the other coach, the coach from Illyria.
Right.
So those are 3 characters where I'm like, you could have gone places with them. So with both Monique and Justin, I would have loved to have seen it where they gender bend Sir Toby and Sir Andrew into Viola's friends, the ones that hang out with the one that dresses her up, the gay friend.
Yes.
Paul. So make Paul into the Feste character. Take the 2 female characters, make them into like Andy and Tanya, whatever you want to call them, and have them playing buffer for her with either Justin or Monique, where basically they are leading them on in the wrong way. And you can make it really funny. Like have Monique wear bright yellow pants, the color that Sebastian would hate if he ever saw her in yellow pants. Like, make her look ridiculous, because she's a horrible character. She's not. They did not redeem her as a character at all in this piece. Even at the end, in her finale, like, her and Justin are totally like, we got to pair them together with someone, so throw them together, and they're just gonna like be egotistical to each other. So woohoo for them. Or Justin make it funny where it's like he's trying to get Viola back, and he's a douchebag. He's a total douchebag. So he's earned the right to be totally made fun of. Like, have him have him like dress up as like the mascot and show up at the carnival. Like, do something really stupid and funny that he's earned the right to be humiliated. And then
that's so true,
right? Or take the sexist coach, not the Vinnie Jones coach, the bad coach from Illyria. Have him where it's like he's hitting on Viola's mom, who's a divorcee, and you can have it where, once again, the friends or Viola works with the friends to trick him into doing something really stupid at the game that totally humiliates him, because he's a sexist pig as well. Like, he deserves to have his ass kicked, like once again, they don't redeem him. Like, that's the thing. Like, none of these bad characters ever get a redeeming moment where they go, oh, I feel so bad for what I did. Oh, it's so horrible, No, none of them are nice people. So it's like, own it up and, like, humiliate them further. Make them the punching bag for the day. Obviously don't go as far as, like, say, like, they're insane and, like, abuse them and lock them in a closet. Like, that's extreme. But you can easily go to the level of where the prank was supposed to go, which is he dresses up in the yellow stockings with cross garters and makes a fool of himself in front of his boss. You could do something with that and have these 3 characters go somewhere with that plot line. I think would be really fun to do, because I do think there was something missing where, like, I was like, okay, do we need this principal character who doesn't add much to the story? He's just kind of there. You could have easily amalgamated him and the coach character into, like, the principal who also coaches the soccer team. Like, you could have done something there. You could have brought some characters together. The Eunice character really wasn't necessary. Like, you also have, I love Eunice as a character. I do love Eunice as a character. But, you also have Eunice, but you also have the Mariah character, who is a character in the film who is Olivia's friend. So it's like, why would you cast 2 different characters when just make Mariah and Eunice one character and just pair them up that way and just be done with it? Like, there were some things you could have easily simplified to make room for this other fun bit of comedy storyline, the switcherooing, play, like, once again, humiliating the bad people of the story and just having fun with it. So it doesn't so much become anti-bullying. It's, these people are awful douchebags, and awful douchebags deserve to be humiliated, It's like Mike Myers playing Elon Musk right now. It's great.
Yeah.
Watching him totally make a fool out of Elon Musk. It's wonderful. He deserves he deserves to be a puncher. Don't go torching Tesla, factories. That's a bit extreme. But making fun of him, absolutely, he deserves to be made fun of. And that's that level where it's like, don't go to the extreme, because obviously that's a different story, and then we will feel sympathy for them. But you can absolutely take the humiliation up a notch, because those three characters have earned the right to be a bit more of a punching bag for comedy there. So I do think I wish it would be a bit more incorporated and had some fun.
I love that you mapped this all out and it's so detail oriented, and I'm on board. I think you should email
Script
them.
doctor.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, let's rewrite this film time machine. Let's go back. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Especially because there's that scene where it's the pizza shop and Viola's trying to avoid Monique. So it's like you're already setting her up to be a very punching bag-ass character. I hate that I'm using the word punching bag. But it's like, I've said it way too many times. But it's like you're setting her up to be the comedic punchline of every scene, where she gets publicly broken up with, like Monique Malvolio, like very similar naming structure there, where you could have gone somewhere with that and had some more fun with that element of the story. So I don't know. I think there are three characters that you could have done something with it. Maybe not to the extreme that 12th, because 12th Night is a commentary on class. So obviously that is a bigger storyline. This is not that film for that. And they knew that. But I do think there was some more comedy they left on the table that they could have, taken a few more pieces from. So, yeah. Let's get into the final question of the night, which is we have seen several of Shakespeare's plays successfully reimagined into modern adaptations. Romeo and Juliet becomes West Side Story. The Taming of the Shrew became 10 Things I Hate About You. Hamlet inspired The Lion King. What's another Shakespearean play that you think would be ripe for this kind of creative reinterpretation? Conversely, are there any Shakespeare plays you think would not translate as easily into modern text? Sarah, we'll let you start this one.
Sure, yes. I was thinking that something like either Mackers or like Richard III, I feel like they could be modernized into kind of a Succession-like drama. Like, I think something about Succession is it feels very, it feels kind of Shakespearean in plot and, I don't know, the tone and everything. So I actually think that you could do something kind of like that with those two plays. I think could be modernized in that kind of way and could be really interesting. So I would love to see something like that. The other one that kind of struck me, and this is like a little bit of a different answer to the question, but it kind of came to me because I recently saw Saul Rubinek in playing Shylock at Canadian Stage. And that's not an adaptation. If you're not familiar with the play, it was adapted newly, even more so now. But the way the play works is that it's a one-man show where Saul Rubinek is pretending that he was in the middle of a production of The Merchant of Venice, and then they find out mid-show that they've been canceled, and it's largely due to the politics around The Merchant of Venice. And so then he talks through all kinds of things from his career and his heritage, but also then the idea of canceling The Merchant of Venice over anti-Semitism. And his kind of stance in the show is that actually The Merchant of Venice was showing a very nuanced Jewish character, more so than any other Jewish characters of the era, and that actually showing the anti-Semitism in the play is important because it's showing the evil of anti-Semitism. So that was kind of like his stance in the play. And I guess that kind of comes from lots of versions, like that play not being done as much anymore or being canceled more often because of the difficult political themes. So that was just one other thing that kind of came to me, was that I don't know about like just a straight modern adaptation, but this was sort of an example where they were taking the play and using it in a modern context to discuss the more difficult themes of and kind of the controversy of the play. So I thought that was sort of interesting. So yeah, that's kind of the other adaptation, like modern telling that I've seen recently, taking a Shakespeare and kind of trying to deal with it in a modern time. I would say the only things that struck me as like maybe wouldn't work as an adaptation is I'm reading Henry VIII right now because I was working on a piece in it. And it was sort of like, this one is just so specific to the historical moment that I don't know how you'd adapt it. Like you're allowed to get divorced now. So the whole plot kind of hinges on his machinations with the Catholic Church and them not wanting him to get divorced.
Wolsey.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the one that kind of struck me as, I don't really know how you'd bring that to the modern day and have it still make sense. But yeah, it was kind of those other examples that came to mind as either possible adaptations or ones where I've already kind of seen it adapted in a particular way for a modern audience.
Interesting. Alicia?
So I also put down Macbeth as an option. I've actually never I've seen Goblin Macbeth, but I've never seen Goblin Macbeth is completely different. It's an adaptation of Macbeth with goblins, honestly. I can't really explain it any other way.
It's an accurate description.
Thank you. So I saw that last October, and I would love to see a modernized version of Macbeth. I'm getting more so, I love horror movies and horror films. So I think that would be a really cool horror film. And then I also put down Much Ado About Nothing. Is anyone familiar with that one?
Much Ado, yeah. They just loosely adapted it for, what's that one with Sydney Sweeney and what's his name?
Yes.
But it's like, they really just took the character names and that's it. Like Beatrice and Benedict, that's the only thing they took from it. I was like, I don't see Much Ado About in this at all.
Wait, what? Is that
what is the name of this movie?
I Don't Want to Like You? Something.
Yeah,
Anything But You. I think
Anything But You. That's it. Yes.
Wow. Okay. So that's been done loosely. Very,
very loose. I think there's a much better because that once again, that is the most classic love to hate plot. Like that's what inspired all these other love to hate storylines was Much Ado. So it is the basis. Beatrice and Benedict.
And then the other one that popped into my mind, I didn't write it down, but it's Timon of Athens, which I also reviewed on the Cup.
Yes, you did.
With Jill.
Yep, Joseph Ziegler.
Yes. So I watched an adaptation of Timon of Athens, I think it was in the fall of 2024, and that was a more modernization of Shakespeare's Timon of Athens, of course. So I would like to see that done again. So Timon of Athens, if anyone is unfamiliar, it's about a guy named Timon who has a bunch of riches, and he is very well liked, and people approach him for money and jewels and all that. And essentially, I just remember everything falls apart for him and he doesn't have money anymore. So that's pretty much the plot. I can just see that's so common. You're rich and then you're not. Yep. So the age-old tale. So I can definitely see that being modernized. In terms of things that don't work, I didn't have anything down for things that don't work, but I really like Sarah's answer. Because some of Shakespeare's, well, pretty much all of Shakespeare's plays, they're very of its time, and some things are more on the emotional side and relationships and things, but I didn't think about the time period in terms of kings and queens and things like that. So I'm just thinking about what Sarah said. It was King Henry VIII?
Henry VIII, yeah.
So I can see that maybe not working as well. Sorry to steal your answer.
That's great.
Hillary?
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I had originally written down, like, is there an adaptation of As You Like It that I'm not recalling? Rosalind of it all? Like, there must be. And I remember.
It's probably a loose adaptation.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't know, As You Like It, that was kind of like my intro to Shakespeare, besides like stuff that I had to read in like late elementary school and things like that, just because it's prose as opposed to verse. So it's just, I feel like if you're not used to it, it's a little easier. And I just remember that being my like gateway into Shakespeare a little bit. And so I think, but I remember a few years ago.
There has not been a modern or a modernized adaptation of it.
Well, then There we go. Maybe. So yeah, that's my answer. I'm really intelligent. I knew that. And so that's why I said that for sure. Thanks, Mac. Appreciate you.
Anytime.
So, but then I was trying to recall, I remember a few years ago and I absolutely never watched it. Like Joss Whedon had a whole bunch of friends over and filmed like a black and white version. And it was
a Much Ado.
Much Ado, or okay, I was like, was that As You Like It or was that Much Ado? And I realized that I never watched it. So
it wasn't good. So you didn't miss much.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, great. Not missing it. I remember watching the trailer years ago and being like, that'd be really cool. And as I answered that, I was like, I should watch that. So now I won't. I don't know. In terms of what I think shouldn't be done, like I'm with you on the histories. Some of them I think are just, it makes it challenging. I love Joan Le Pucelle in Henry VI, part 1 or 3. My brain's not remembering this time. Maybe there's like some stuff there, but I think in general the histories are hard. But also I'm kind of like, I don't know if we need Taming of the Shrew anymore. Is how I feel.
Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles did a great adaptation.
They did a great, and I think we should leave that. Like I think we did it to the best that we could, and just in general with programming. I don't know if we need any more of that, but I'm open to interpretation. I'm open to being proved wrong all the time.
Love that. Love that. So top of my list was Merry Wives of Windsor. I think that would be a perfect one to do a modernization of, because it's 2 women taking the mickey out of a misogynistic man in Falstaff and just having fun beating this guy up, like just making a absolute wretched fool out of him. Obviously there are some subplots like the whole, and what's his name? Not Jack Rugby, the French guy, the doctor. Anyway, there's like their whole subplot where they're going after the daughter, that it's like, you probably could, that could be a bit of a Malvolio cut plot that we don't quite need. But the 2 women going after Falstaff, I think that is like, give me a good comedy of 2 middle-aged women. Like, give me like an Angela Bassett and like a Melissa McCarthy teaming up to like take on like, like a John Hamm type character. Like,
you need to pitch this, Mackenzie. Like we need to get you in contact. We need to call Andy. We need to find
Andy, let's go, buddy. Let's go. Bring it on. Give me my story credit.
Get your lookbook going now.
Right. Exactly. I think there was some really fun bits you could have with that one. Also, Henry V, I think, is one you could do a very loose adaptation of, like set in like, college football, college basketball. And it's like the whole thing of like, they're the losing team, they want to go back in, they got to go fight, Team Agincourt, they got to go fight through, all that, you could have a really good sporty one there with lots of sports montages, that one could work. That one, I think you could do an interesting, or even Henry IV. I think Henry IV, Henry V, you could do a really good coming of age style, Friday Night Lights, esque story in there that I think could work well for that. Was there any others that I was like, ooh, that could be interesting? On the tragedy front, I think, well, once again, Succession was very much an adaptation of King Lear, so that's already kind of being done. What's one of the other tragedies? I mean, Titus Andronicus, I think, could be fun to do. I think you could do something really interesting with like a modern day, like, especially now, post Bush Wars. I think there's a really interesting commentary you can make about military invasion not warranted and the ripple effects of what happens when a military goes in and conquers a country or a people's, and how those people fight back. And I think you could actually make a bit more of a sympathetic version of Tamara and Aaron as characters. I don't know how you would do the whole Lavinia assault and mutilation, and not make those characters into villains. But once again, I think in a war situation, people take it too far on both sides. And I think, 2 people traumatized by an aggressing party take it out on, the aggressing party, victimize somebody else. I think there actually is a commentary there. Obviously, it'd have to be done in a very delicate way that you don't glorify those characters and what they do as, retribution for their conquering. But I think there's a commentary there about would Lavinia have been attacked in the first place had, her dad not gone in and, conquered Tamara and her colony and brought them back into Rome and all the shit that goes on there. So I think there is an interesting drama in that story there that you could really do an interesting adaptation of. The one I think conversely wouldn't work as well is Julius Caesar, because it's so basic. It's like tyrannical guy gets killed off by other people, and the fractions war about it afterwards. It's like, I don't know how else you could modernize that without it being like a direct like ba-doom ba-doom. Like there's not much wiggle room in that storyline there. Also, Pericles. Nobody really cares about the Shakespearean Pericles. Oh, Hillary might actually.
No, I'm realizing in this moment I've never read it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a play.
Only reason why I know it is because Stratford did a pro shot of it, and I watched it, and my friend Bridget was in it, and it was actually a decent production, but it's like one where it's like, could care less if anybody ever does it again. That's one that's on the list of ones where I'm like, skip. Also, I think Winter's Tale, would be a really hard one, particularly the ending. Like the first part, I think you could do like, the husband, accuses his wife of having an affair and challenging the paternity of a child. That all I think could work. But then you get into the whole after plot where, Hermione isn't dead, spoiler alert, but is she dead? We don't know. She's a statue, not a statue. It gets weird at the end. It's a problem play for a reason. It's one of those ones where I'm like, how does it work? Like, exit, pursued by a bear. It's a weird one where I'm like, I don't know how you could do that and make it work. So yeah, it's one of those weird ones where I'm like, give or take. I'm sure somebody could come up with a really interesting way of going about it, but that is not one where I'm like, there. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that question. There's a few really good ones, few ones where I'm like, But yeah, Merry Wives, top of my list, in Titus. Now that I've talked to it more, I'm like, I do that over a Henry V adaptation. I would do either a Titus or Merry Wives adaptation for sure. I think there's some really interesting commentary with both of those that could be done. So yeah, there we go, everybody. That's it in a nutshell. She's the Man. And, we did hint at a potential Julia Stiles Shakespeare trilogy kickoff. So that could be coming down the pipeline, starting off with, maybe 10 Things I Hate About You, since that's one we've like repeatedly referred to in these past 2 episodes. That may be the next one this quartet of us tackle as a group. So
can I say one more thing about She's the Man before we
of course.
Okay, I just want to jump back to something that was said earlier. Mac, you were the one that said this.
Okay.
When we were talking about soccer being played by women, and if it was any other sport, it wouldn't be as believable. I just want to say I disagree, because all women are built differently, and Amanda Bynes, she is within this movie, slimmer shoulders. She looks like someone who can play soccer, but when we were talking about the different sports, I was thinking about, since Degrassi was brought up and I watched Degrassi religiously, there's a character in Degrassi. Oh my god, so good. There's a character in
R.I.P. JT.
I know. So Jane in Degrassi, she wants to join I believe it was football. So she wanted to play football, and she had to wear the shoulder pads, and she had a really tough time. And I think one thing I love about this movie is just the commentary on the 2000s and women in sports. And there's still that commentary of
absolutely there is
women not being able to do certain things within the sports community. And I just want to say, if Amanda Bynes, if this was a hockey movie or a football movie, I think it would still have the same impact. That girl power undertone, also overtone. So, and it just, in case of any young women are listening to this and thinking, well, I play hockey and I love football, I just want to make sure as we film this during International Women's Month, you're heard and you can play whatever sport you want.
Yes, Alicia.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's more just Amanda Bynes. You're right. It's Amanda Bynes. When you're casting her, it'd be like hard to picture her playing football and not being terrified that, Channing Tatum's going to tackle and like crush her on the field. Where it's like, no, let's not do that. But yes, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once again, it all depends on who you cast. Because, Dancing with the Stars has had a really great thing with the female rugby player.
Yeah,
the Olympic rugby player. Yeah, where it's like, I could totally see her being like cast as like a football rugby person. You put her in a film like that. I love that. I forget her name though. What was their name?
It's Alona Mar.
Thank you. Wonderful. Once again, I think you're right, Alicia. It all depends on who you're casting in that lead role, and that will affect what sport you probably would pair them up with to make the most logical sense in a storyline like that. But yeah, shout out to Degrassi. Degrassi, man. They're actually getting rid of that school now. They're tearing it down.
No. I'll have to walk by it before it.
Go visit.
Yeah. Go visit the collegiate school.
We can't have anything.
Yeah.
Condos everywhere.
Crying.
God, that show. So good, so good. There we go. All right, but let's all give our sign-offs before we go. Alicia, where can people follow you?
Feel free to follow me on Instagram. My @is Alicia Plummer. You can also find me on TikTok at Hi Alicia, Bye Alicia. Also, just some fun information. I wrote a play for the Women at Plays Festival happening from March 28th to April 6th. So if you want to catch that, please get your tickets. It's a wonderful festival with other female women playwrights. And that's it for me. Yay.
Yay. Yay. Sarah?
You can also find me on Instagram at heim.sarah. And you can find me on TikTok as well. And I think it's just the reverse at sarah.heim. And I will shout out my short film that you were kind enough to mention at the beginning, Mac, because we are getting started with our festival submissions. And so hopefully are going to have a premiere date soon. And so the film is about gender bias in healthcare and a woman who's struggling to be believed about her chronic pain. And so if that's something that resonates with you, please follow my page, because that's where all the info is right now. And hopefully we'll be able to share it with the public soon.
Does the short have like an Instagram page on its own or not yet?
It does not yet. So the best place to get the updates is on my page for now. And then we'll see if we branch that out once we have more, a premiere date and things to promote. Then maybe we'll create its own page so it's easy to find.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Hillary, where can people follow you?
You can find me just on Instagram. I'm not on TikTok at Hillary Lynn. I'm Hillary with one L, LYNNE, and that's on Instagram.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And you can follow me at Mackenzie Horner, all social media platforms. Follow my other musical antics over on Before the Downbeat, a musical podcast. And stay tuned, everybody, for our next quartet gathering for, maybe some Julia Stiles, Heath Ledger fun. I mean, I'm sorry, Sarah, we're still going to be in the high school, teenage grouping era. We're still going to be in that world. But once again, we're in the comedy realm now. We're moving away from the tragedy into the comedy.
We're moving into a very different tone. So I can do it.
Perfect. All right, everybody. Wonderful. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we will see you all in the next episode. Cheers.
Thanks for having me.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thanks.